So poops, in the last video, we established that no, you can't abuse Rohingya children. But now I have a different question to ask. Why are we paying for Rohingya children to be born in Malaysia? So poops, there's a viral podcast at the moment featuring this one professor named Dr. Salawati Mat Basir. She basically said that the government pays 30 million ringgit a year for the cost of birthing and the sicknesses of the Rohingya. She says that we forget the refugees have around 10 kids and maybe Malaysians 1 or 2. So here people are making noise about hospital facilities, the attitudes, considering the fact that the ones paying the taxes are us. Wow. Now, so poops, I'll tell you straight up that I have a healthy skepticism whenever it comes to interviews with some of these professors. See, I think a lot of us know already about another professor who told us about flying Malays.
But, well, we don't have a source for the report and we have to kind of assume that it's real.
I don't know what other cost the esteemed professor is talking about right here, but it might not actually have something to do with the UNHCR subsidy per se, but it can also be other costs that are associated with treating and funding the refugees. Especially if, for example, they happen to be in our refugee detention camps, in which case, then if they have no money, then we do have to pay for their treatment and so on and so forth. And by the way, that's just one estimate. We're not even talking about the detention cost, which is apparently like 90 ringgit per day at 168 million ringgit per year, which is, by the way, far more than the 30 million that was already mentioned and that already has people hopping mad. Right now, the comments are just coming out minute by minute by minute though, so yeah, a lot of us are, to say the very least, triggered. Not very happy, to say the very least. But still, it's a pretty interesting podcast and I think it's worth watching and listening to her take on how apparently this Rohingya problem has been going on for the past 20 odd years, the government not doing anything. It is a mess. But anyway, it is a fact that we are seeing lots of Rohingya children in all of those videos, and also, for what it's worth, as I told you guys, I actually used to intern at the UNHCR, and I would actually talk to all these sad people coming in and talking about how they don't have money for hospital bills. So I can tell you for a fact that they actually have multiple children, and you just have to wonder like, walao eh, nothing better to do, is it? You kind of have to question these people sometimes and ask yourself, why are you even doing this? I mean, as a refugee, which technically the Rohingya are not because we didn't ratify the 1951 convention, you don't have a right to education, you don't have a right to employment, you are stateless, your child is stateless, your existence on Malaysian soil is a violation of the law. So then the question is, why are these people just casually bringing in so many kids into the world when they know that their kids are going to have horrible, horrible lives? I mean, I just can't brain it. It's like even Malaysian citizens won't do it, and I can tell you for a fact that members of the Chinese community will not have kids in many cases because they exactly know that having kids is expensive, and if you bring a kid into the world and you don't have money to pay for the kid's education, food, and everything else, then you might as well not do that. Because like, why would you bring a human being into the world just to make them suffer, get bullied, and eventually end up hating the world, and then eventually unable to feed you? It turns out though, that whether we know the 30 million thing is true or not, there's actually a paper that I found that explains partly why it is that FDMNs, which is basically code for the Rohingya, have such a high total fertility rate, which basically refers to the number of children that a woman can be expected to have in her lifetime. Turns out that for the population of people that they surveyed in this study written by Anwar Hussain and Belal Hussain, the people that they interviewed said that having so many kids is the will and order of the god that they worship, and they talk about the religious, political, economic, and social advantages of having more children, especially sons. Yeah, great. How nice to know, especially when your kids are going to be illegals like you and end up as a burden upon society because you cannot keep it in your pants. And then interestingly enough, the Rohingya religious leaders and mass people were found highly politically motivated to continue the practice of high fertility with a view to expanding the Rohingya community or to increase Muslim soldiers so that they may fight back and take control of their ancestors' place in Myanmar in the future. Wow. Question is, why don't you go back to Myanmar first and then do that, not do it in Malaysia? But yeah, seriously, Rohingya poops, why are you having so many kids? Why are you doing this to yourselves, and why are you doing this to the people of Malaysia? The very idea that somehow that Malaysian taxpayers have to take money out of our pockets, which could go into funding schools, new hospitals, and other things as well, is not likely to sit right with Malaysian people at all. If it's for fun, then can you stop having fun, or at least get vasectomies or something like that? And if you're doing it just to bring in your politics into Malaysia as a whole, then can you stop it with your radicalization nonsense? Because Malaysia does not need to get involved with your delulu ideas of how to live in this world, especially when you have no plan. You cannot have a plan, you are an illegal, and so you will remain. Anyway, what do you think, Sapoops? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. That's all to say about that, and bye.